Hi everyone, and welcome to this edition of Food for the Soul, brought to you by First Congregational Church in Braintree, Massachusetts. I am Reverend Michael Frady, and today I am inviting you once again to take a tour of my garden. Some of you have been on this tour before. In the early spring, I showed you how I was preparing the garden for planting. And then when I started the seedlings, you got to see that. Then as the plants were growing, I talked a little bit about the bug prevention and showed you what was coming up. Well, now it's been quite a few weeks later, and I've been harvesting plenty. And today, before I cut the vegetables that are ready, I'd like to show you what's growing. I have been using my time of meditation and contemplation recently to think about wilderness periods, and I'd like to share a bit of that with you first before we go on to tour the garden. I was thinking of wilderness periods because we've been in this long stretch of hot, dry July weather, and now as we're entering the first week of August, I find myself struggling to keep up with providing the plants with enough water. I have given up on any effort to water the lawn. I know those of you in the city who are using town water have some restrictions on how much water you can use. I've got my own restrictions in that I do have a well, and certainly don't want to run the risk of running dry. So all of that resource goes towards the garden. So I'll get to that in a moment. The garden is in this wilderness period where you'll see when I show you some of the plants how leaves are wilting. They're struggling with the heat and getting not enough water. And I'm also thinking of wilderness period as this time that we've been in through this global pandemic, magnified by the many other things going on in our world today, in our country, with civil unrest, addressing racism. There are presidential elections that I'm sure are going to be getting a bit unpleasant to tune into in the near future. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of concern. So we are certainly in this wilderness period. So when I come to the garden and think of the wilderness, I think of Moses and his people traveling through the wilderness and God providing just enough manna, just enough food to sustain them each day. So it's a little bit different with the garden situation. I go out and I harvest every day, and I get not only enough for each day, but I get enough to share, and that's one of the joys of gardening. I pray that you are enduring well through this wilderness period, that your prayer life is deepening, and that you remain hopeful and faithful through this time of trial, and that you are enjoying some of the wonderful blessings that are still very present in our lives. I'm going to share this blessing that brings me great joy, and that is harvesting vegetables. I'm going to pause here and turn the camera around, take you to the garden, and let you know what's going on there. So please come along for this tour. So I'm going to do the tour in reverse this time, starting with the blueberry bush. I've got two blueberry bushes. This one I pick about a pint a day from, so it's clearly ready for picking today. And then I've got a second one behind it that'll start producing berries soon. So it's nice that they're staggered. Each day I put some berries aside for Joyce to have with her breakfast, and then freeze the rest for blueberry pie. And here I've got raspberries coming along. And also I've got the sunflower, which haven't begun to flower yet, but we still got time. It's early August, and they'll be spectacular when they bloom. Coming around, I've got the pine saplings that I'll plant during sabbatical. And then coming inside, there are nasturtiums and kale, which Joyce and I enjoy making kale chips with just a little bit olive oil and salt and slow cooking them in the oven. And they come out a lot like potato chips, but a little bit healthier snack. There's arugula that we enjoy in salads. Here I've got a couple green peppers, and here is shishito pepper, another shishito, jalapeno, and then here is a red pepper plant, and there's the pepper. It hasn't turned red yet, and jalapeno, shishitos, and then here's another green pepper plant, and then I've got regular tomatoes, Roma tomatoes. I've got one turning red there. We've got these little grape tomatoes, and then also this nice cluster of cherry tomatoes. These are called super sweet variety, and they are delicious. Here's more aromas, and then here are the big boy tomatoes. They're not getting as much sun in this corner, but they'll turn red eventually. And then over here we have one, two, that one's kind of struggling down there, eggplants. Then we've got the yellow summer squash. I've got a couple plants of those, and I've been harvesting that very heavily. And then also over here is the zucchini. That's been producing well also. There's an okra, and that'll take a little bit more time before they're ready to harvest. Over here I've got a couple varieties of cucumber. Not sure if you can see that guy. I've got regular cucumbers there, and then over here I've got the large cucumbers, which are the English cucumbers. Let me see, there's one growing there. They get to be like 14 inches long. They're pretty nice and they're delicious. And then here I've got some eggplant. And then moving to the outside, I've got this bunch of wildflowers along with some dill, oregano, basil, thyme, parsley growing wild, and then there's some marigolds. And then here got a little round pumpkin, watermelon. And then here are the pumpkins. Now this guy, nice and big, has already turned orange, so I may have planted him a little bit early. So I'm going to put him in the basement, and hopefully it's dark and cool enough that he'll make it all the way to Halloween. But that's quite a ways off, since we're only in early August. And another one that's turned orange already. In there I've got not sure if you can see it, a little white pumpkin. So I've got quite a few pumpkin and squash varieties growing out here, including this guy, and there's a pumpkin there. And then here we've got a white pumpkin, and what else do we have? Acorn squash. So things are coming along pretty nicely in the garden. It's been a true pleasure doing this all year, as it is every year, and I hope you've enjoyed the tour. So thank you for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed this tour today. This place that is an oasis for me in this wilderness time, it hardly feels like work to me. It's just an ongoing adventure that brings me continuous joy. So I hope you have something in your life, something that you're growing or making or creating or sharing with someone else that also brings you joy, that is a refreshing drink for your weary soul. I pray this time has been enriching for you, and I pray that you are well, and I look forward to the next time I see you. Until then, take good care. God bless you. So long.